I decided to give us a little ambiance because this one may be a little long. So just relax and let's hear a view from the bridge. My brother was taught what to do. He was taught to compete. He had to walk tall, run fast, throw far in order to outdo his competition. My father taught him about doing, yet as far as he was concerned, my brother could never do enough. My grandmother would say, "Let that boy be." My father's retort was, if you had your way, he'd be a sissy. Black men must do whatever is necessary not to be a sissy. Sissy, as it relates to men, is one who is quiet, meek, non-competitive, non-aggressive, and whose masculinity is questionable and up for grabs. Spirit is quiet, non-competitive, non-aggressive, and invisible. Spirit is also genderless and colorless because it represents all that God is. When I think about my brother and his peers, my father and his peers, being a man was not only what you did, it was the posture, the manner in which you moved. It was a physical or outer demonstration. I don't recall ever hearing anyone tell my brother that he was good inside. I don't remember ever hearing about his mission, his purpose, or his everlasting connection to his Creator. What my brother was taught was bravado. In light of all that could have been told, have seen, and have experienced, it is understandable that you may have developed some very bad habits. Those of us who watch you struggle with what you have been taught and cannot figure out know that old habits, ding, are hard to break. We know many of you think very poorly of yourselves. You expect little for or from yourselves. We know that many of you are totally unaware of the spirit within you or its purpose in your life. We know a few of you recognize that there is a spirit that contributes to your life, but we also know you cannot figure out what to do with it or about it. Still, we cheer you on and throw up our hands helplessly, disgusted when you don't make it, when you do not get the things you compete for. We, the onlookers, forget that we are the same ones who are not listening and not hearing what you striving black men say. Through your competitive actions, we, like you, fail to recognize that you have been taught what to do rather than how to be. What's the problem? Most men are taught that they must be busy doing something. A busy man is an important man. He's needed. He's popular. A busy man lives in the edge of life, juggling many things, handling emergencies, responding to crises, and being in control. A busy man is empowered, not by who he is, but because of what he does. It's embarrassing for a man to say, "I don't have anything to do," because busyness is a kind of validation that is often translated to "I am somebody. I have important things to do." A man who is engaged in doing urgent, empowering and validating activities of life may miss his most important duty of all, righting his relationship with his soul, with the creator of his life. You cannot expect to have a good relationship with anyone or anything God created if you do not have a good relationship with God. How many family, businesses, or relationships do you know of that have been destroyed by dissension among the people involved? People sitting in the same room who dislike or distrust one another will not make a great deal of progress together. The same is true for people who do not trust the Spirit. The Spirit in your soul is the Spirit of life in every other soul. When you know love and trust that Spirit, being conscious of His presence, that knowledge takes precedence over doing. Let me repeat that. The same is true for people who do not trust the Spirit. The Spirit in your mind is the Spirit of life in every other soul. When you know, love, and trust Spirit, being conscious of His presence, that knowledge takes precedence over doing. That knowledge takes precedence over doing. When you can be peaceful in the presence of Spirit, human urgency no longer rules your life, and human acceptance is no longer a priority. A man who is at peace in the spiritual realm is not hired to do what he has taught men to do is right in the world. A man who is at peace in the spiritual realm is not lured. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Spirit. A man who is at peace in the spiritual realm is not lured to do what he is taught men must do to be right in the world. Okay. My father was dishonorably discharged from the army. This is IYANLA speaking, not me. My father had an honorable discharge, just for, footnote. Arrested for selling cigarettes on the black market, he served a few years in Fort Leavenworth before being promised freedom if he would agree to go to Germany on a suicide mission. I guess he figured he had nothing else to lose. He often said, as a black man, you're in jail when you're not in jail. So he went. He survived. When my father came back to the United States expecting to be freed, he was booted out of the United States Army dishonorably. Many years later, Hollywood made a movie about the mission on which he had served. My father never made a dime from that movie. All his life, he had difficulty finding a job because of this discharge status. I think my father was an angry black man. I don't know whether he got angry before he stole and sold the cigarettes or after he was discharged dishonorably. In his anger, he decided that the system and the world were against him. He lived by that decision. My father was angry, but he knew how to front. He knew all the things a man was expected to do, and he learned to do them to the best of his ability. During the 1950s, it was difficult for an angry, frightened black man to maneuver his way around society outside the system and still be legal. It was not unheard of, however, for the angry, frightened, and unacknowledged to front well enough to find a way to make it outside of the system. My father was a numbers runner and a gambler. He had many women and several children by a few of them, and he always had a car. By his standards and according to all his friends, he was a good man. He did the best he could with what he had to work with. Each time my father was arrested for running numbers, he got angrier. Whenever he was confronted, pushed to make a choice between my stepmother, who was his wife, and whom I think of as my mother, and his girlfriend, the mother of 5 of his children, he got even more angry. When his Cadillac was repossessed, or when my brother and I needed shoes again, or when he could not get his clothes out of the cleaners, or when the landlord came to collect the rent, his anger turned to rage, and in his rage, my father taught my brother to be angry at the system that had failed to acknowledge and then betrayed him. He taught my brother all about rage, while my grandmother, mother, and I stood silently by, believing we did not have to be a viable alternative. Who the hell wants to talk about spirit or things of a spiritual nature when the rent is due and all your good clothes are in the cleaners and the man just repossessed your car? I remember the stories my father told my brother and me about being a poor black boy in rural Virginia. He talked about being hungry even though he worked 12 hours a day in some white woman's kitchen with his mother. He told us stories about being a shoeshine boy and how many times he had been kicked in the face. I remember how he would scream and holler about the indignities he had experienced. He told my brother, and on very special occasions, when I would be allowed to listen, I also heard how it was necessary to fight and claw your way through the world. He specifically told my brother never, never to let anyone question his manhood. Never let them know you are afraid or how bad you might be doing. I don't think anyone ever taught my father he had a right to be angry about some things or how to channel the energy of those things that he was angry about. I don't believe he thought he had a right ever to be afraid. What do black men need to be saved from? Is it themselves? Is it the world? I believe black men need to be saved from the bad thoughts you have about yourselves and the bad habits you have picked up. I believe you need to be saved from negative self-talk and negative self-images. More important, I know black men need to be saved from ignorance. The ignorance about the power of the spirit within you. The spirit that sustains your life. The spirit that breathes through you and controls your bodily functions. The Spirit of God, of which you are a carbon copy walking upon the face of the earth. Ignorance of that spirit robs you of your dignity and your ability to stand in the face of the giant and cast your stone without fear. I also believe you need to be saved from the aggressiveness of doing so that you will know how to be. As a black woman, I often wonder if the salvation of men is for my own sake or in pursuit of an intangible experience neither of us is clear about. There is a psychological approach to shifting perceptions called A Course in Miracles, which states you cannot solve your problem because you do not know what your problem is. According to the Course, the only problem we have as human beings is the belief that we are separated from God. As a result of the perceived separation, we suffer and struggle with issues, searching for answers that are buried in our true nature, No matter how difficult the questions in life may be, we know the answer because God knows the answer. God is the inner godness and the inner goodness born within each and every person. There is nothing we must do to receive it. We must learn, however, to be in contact with that inner self. This contact, once it's made, results in a state of being that is good. Like most black women, I have wondered, what is it that black men really want? Is it peace? Is it love? Is it self-actualization? Money? Do black men really want 40 acres and a mule? I also wonder how they know what they want. I also wonder how they know that what they want will give them the experience they're searching for. I also wonder how they know that what they want will give them the experience that they're searching for. If the thing black men truly want, ding, is an intangible experience, what if the thing black men truly want is an intangible experience? What does freedom feel like? What does peace feel like? How will you know it when you experience it if you never had it? As black men search through and query life, what is that you need, want, and expect from black women? As black men search through and query life, what is it that you need, want, and expect from black women? As you contemplate these things, I wonder if you realize that we are also trying to find answers to the same questions. In the process of loving, supporting, and reaching out to you, we are searching for our goodness within and without. This away and that away. I often think about the similarities and differences among the men I have known in my life. Why is it that some come through the maze with flying colors and others fumble around helplessly? Using my father, brother, husband, son, grandsons, and godfather as examples, I found a few plausible explanations. My father had been hardened by his life experiences. He taught my brother to be hard. It was the father's attempt to save his son from suffering the indignities he had suffered. As black men in America, with completely different experiences, they had both been made to feel so wrong, so inadequate, so often. They believed it was their duty to prove there was nothing wrong with them. They could not or dared not try to prove it to the world, so they laid the burdens of proof on their women, children, and each other. My father and brother yelled and argued, sometimes fought to prove their point and hold their ground at home. They were each set in their ways, which they believed was the only way, the right way. They were attached to their opinions, which of course always served to prove that they were right. They were unwilling to change, saw no need to change. They were right about the things they believed, and if you did not agree with them, you were wrong. Period. My father, brother, and husband seemed too scared, too skeptical, too disappointed by past failures or rejection to make new choices and take new steps to do the things that they said they wanted to do. They lived in the pain of unfulfillment, and it was painful for me to live among them. In response to the demands of capitalism and the American dream, my father, brother, and mother. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Let me try that again. Let me drink some water. Sorry. Okay, back. In response to the demands of capitalism and the American dream, my father, brother, and husband were among the black men who were conditioned to believe that their value, self-worth, and most of the problems in life hinge on money, the lack of it, the devaluation of it, how people will use you to get it, what others will do to you to get the little bit that you have. Some black men I have known believe that by obtaining the right job or car, which they often could not afford, they would immediately be elevated to a position of all rightness. How can it be all right to ground your sense of self on something that can so easily be repossessed? A physical sense of security is the easiest thing to lose because it's determined by external factors. Those black men who understand the tenuous nature of physical fulfillment often look to the intangible experiences such as justice, freedom, equality, and acceptance by other people. Black men and women believe these intangible experiences will solve all the challenges we face in life. Whom do we want to be equal to? Accepted by? More important, why? We have been taught to define ourselves, seek and limit ourselves within the confines of a physical realm that's ever-changing. We have been taught to define ourselves, seek and limit ourselves within the confines of a physical realm that is ever-changing. My grandson, at age 4, has not yet developed opinions he's willing to fight for. He's still eager to learn and is open to new experiences. He's still impressionable. He has not yet figured out who he is or what that means to the rest of the world. In fact, he doesn't care what the world thinks about him. As a result, my grandson, Oluwa, is free to explore and experience life as it happens, without set opinions and preconceived notions into which everything has to fit. Oluwu is free to explore and experience life as it happens, without set opinions and preconceived notions into which everything has to fit. He is more than willing to make mistakes. Oluwa believes in and has faith in the overall goodness of people. I know because I have tried to explain it to him at least 1,000 times why he must not talk to strangers, who a stranger is, and how he can tell a good stranger from a not good stranger. Even when things do not go the way he would like them to go, he is willing to dig in and try again. He's not yet figured out what was right and what or who was wrong. He doesn't know anything and is willing to admit that without fear of being judged or criticized. All of his doing is focused on his personal pleasure, not the demands of the world. Alua still trusts life, which is something that my father and brother stopped doing long ago. Ashe. Well, thank you guys for allowing me to share these words from The Spirit of a Man by IYANLA VANZANT. Please don't forget to share these passages with other brothers. Help uplift the community. Other sisters, same thing. And I'll be sure to get back to you guys tomorrow with another passage. And thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join the membership. And if not, at least like this video, okay? And make a comment. I'm enjoying your comments. Thank you so much. I'll be talking to you guys real soon. Peace. Ashe.